Okay, let's jump right in. The massive news this week, really hitting yesterday, May 22nd, 2025. Bitcoin, a huge new milestone.
Yeah, absolutely. The source material we're looking at today puts it past $111,000.
Even touching, what, almost $112,000?
That's right, a number that really makes you sit up and take notice. So yeah, our deep dive today is all about unpacking that source, the article covering this record price.
Exactly. And our goal here is pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the key insights for you. What are the main numbers saying? What's actually behind this surge?
Right, and the bigger market picture too.
Definitely. And maybe the most fascinating part, there's this incredible bit of Bitcoin history tied to the very same date.
Ah, yes. That's a great connection.
So for you listening, think of this as your quick guide, your shortcut, really, to get the essential details and the most interesting bits straight from this source material.
Okay, so let's start right there with the price. Almost 112K. That means it just beat the previous peak, right? This
Yeah.
is only the day before, around $109,500.
Right. So what the source is saying, and this feels important, is that Bitcoin's now properly in a new price discovery phase.
Price discovery, yeah, that's the term. And it's key because it means, well, we're off the map, essentially.
No old resistance levels way up here.
Exactly. Though, interestingly, the source does note that even with Bitcoin flying, the total crypto market cap, it's still sitting a bit under its high from back in mid-December, around $3.6 trillion.
Hmm. So not everything is moving in lockstep.
Apparently not. The article mentions that while Bitcoin's showing all this strength, a lot of the altcoins, they've been, well, relatively quieter.
That is an interesting contrast. Okay, so the momentum. The source mentioned some big gains, what, over 17% just since the start of the year?
Yeah, and something like 47% since it dipped back in April, down to $75,000.
Wow. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting according to the article. What's the main force, the engine behind this climb?
Well, the source really zeroes in on one thing: institutional accumulation.
Ah, so not primarily the smaller retail folks this time.
That's what the article suggests, yeah. It's pointing more towards the large capital players, the big money.
Okay, big money. How does the source back that up? What are the signs?
Well, a big one is the spot ETFs here in the U.S., the exchange-traded funds.
Yep.
The article highlights 6 straight trading days with inflows totaling over $2 billion.
$2 billion in 6 days. Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty substantial buying pressure, and it's concentrated in those institutional-type vehicles.
Okay, that's a very clear signal, isn't it? And it's not just the ETFs, is it?
Huh.
The source mentioned corporations, too,
Exactly. Corporations accumulating Bitcoin, holding it on their balance sheets.
like Michael Saylor's company, Strategy.
Strategy, yep. And also a Japanese firm, Metaplanet, gets a mention. And there's this quote in there from a strategist, Jeff Walton. He called Strategy the apex Bitcoin accumulator.
Apex Accumulator. I like that.
Yep.
He noted they've bought, what, hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin recently?
Yeah, the source says 324,000 BTC just in the last 8 months.
It's just incredible scale. And what did Walton say that means, like, in context?
Well, he basically said Strategy holds 105,000 more Bitcoin than every single other public company combined that holds Bitcoin.
Wow. More than all the others put together.
That's the insight from the source. Yeah. So they're buying this dedicated large-scale buying. It's not just a factor. Walton argues it's possibly the single biggest consistent buying pressure in the market right now.
That really drives home their conviction, doesn't it? And the article mentions, with this new high price, Strategy's paper profit, their unrealized gain.
Yeah, reportedly soared past $23 million.
$23 billion.
And their whole stash is now worth well over $60 billion, according to the source.
Shows the sheer amount of capital involved now from these major players. But okay, this institutional picture, how does that contrast with the smaller investors? Retail.
Right. So the source notes things are, and I quote, relatively quiet on the retail front.
Quiet. Any indication why that might be?
The article suggests it's down to external stuff, worries about the economy, macroeconomic clouds darkening, inflation woes increasing.
Ah, okay.
And it also mentions that social media sentiment, search trends, they're apparently at bear market lows.
So the big players are buying the dips, pushing prices up, while maybe the average person is feeling a bit more cautious because of the wider economic picture.
That seems to be the divergence the source is highlighting, yes.
Interesting. Though the article does mention one analyst, Crypto still bullish.
Yeah, predicting more to come, maybe even a push towards $115,000. But the overall feel seems to be this conviction from the big dedicated holders is really driving things right now.
Hmm. It feels like a very different world, this rally driven by huge institutions compared to, well, where Bitcoin started.
A world away, absolutely. And, speaking of where it started, that date, May 22nd, it's not just the date of this all-time high.
It's Bitcoin Pizza Day.
Exactly. Perfect timing. It marks the first time anyone actually used Bitcoin for a real-world purchase for something physical.
15 years ago, right? May 22nd, 2010, the programmer, Laszlo Hanyecz.
That's the one. He famously bought 2 pizzas, Papa John's, I think.
And the price tag was 10,000 Bitcoin.
10,000 Bitcoin, which back then was worth maybe $40, something like that.
40 bucks. For 10,000 Bitcoin, it was just about proving it could work, right?
Yeah.
That you could actually exchange the digital stuff for, well, pizza.
A proof of concept, yeah. Now, fast forward 15 years, you take those same 10,000 Bitcoin. At the price we just saw, nearly $112,000 per coin.
So what are those 2 pizzas worth today, based on the source?
According to the article, around $1.1 billion.
$1.1 billion.
Yeah.
For 2 pizzas. That originally cost $40. The number is just staggering. What does the source say that signifies that kind of jump?
Well, it's just this incredibly powerful symbol of Bitcoin's journey, isn't it?
From a tech experiment to...
Exactly. From something tiny, a niche thing with barely any real-world value attached, to this globally recognized asset where that very first transaction represents, immense wealth. It's not just about the price going up. It's about a total shift in how it's seen, its value, its place in the world.
That history really puts today's news into perspective. Okay, so let's bring this together, wrapping up this deep dive.
Okay, so we've hit the new all-time high, confirming that price discovery phase. We've seen it's largely driven, according to the source, by significant institutional buying ETFs, corporations like Strategy.
Right, and we contrasted that with the retail side, which seems quieter, maybe held back by those broader economic concerns.
And then we layered on that amazing historical context of Bitcoin Pizza Day, May 22nd. That $40 purchase now notionally worth over $1 billion.
So the aim here was really to distill all that for you, to pull out the key numbers, the core insights from the source material, giving you that quick understanding of what's happening.
And maybe, as a final thought to leave you with, consider this. You've got today's record high, driven by these massive institutional players. And you contrast that with that very first real-world use case, 15 years ago, $40 for pizza, now worth over $1 billion.
It's quite the contrast.
It is. So the thought is, what does this incredible journey from, a fringe tech experiment to a global institutional asset class, what does that suggest to you about how value itself is created, how it's perceived,
Right.
and how entirely new systems can gain adoption and meaning over time?